Hello YouTube, it's Simon here with Hobbies of the Man once again, and today we are doing another manga review. Although today we're actually looking at a Manhwa, a Korean manga or comic book. And today we're going to be looking at this omnibus of Breaker, or The Breaker, which is a South Korean manhwa that has international success in France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Russia, Turkey, Poland, and many other places. And now Ablaze has managed to publish for us. So let's look at it a little bit, and we'll talk about the edition before we get into the review here. So the title is The Breaker, like I said, and this is the first omnibus. It covers volumes 1 and 2. It's kind of interesting looking. It's a gray, blue, and black is the main color scheme, but this kind of has a lot more colors in it, which is pretty cool. I think that kind of focus is really interesting. And the author here seems to be Jeon Gyuk Jin, and the illustrator is Park Jin Won. And I apologize if I messed those pronunciations up. I'm not too familiar with Korean names. So yeah, this is published by Ablaze, which is a small publisher that is getting into the comic book and manga market, and they seem to also want to get into manhwa. Now, that's pretty interesting, and it's pretty cool, and I actually really appreciate them. They seem to have some interesting titles that you probably wouldn't see very many other places, and most of the titles that they have seem to be brought in from other countries, so that's pretty cool. The demographic here is mature. As far as I can tell, it says so right here underneath the cost and the label there. It says mature. You guys can't really see it, but it says so right there. And I guess, I mean, I understand why it's mature, but it would basically be like a very ecchi shonen series, a little bit kind of more on the kind of getting to seinen level, right? So yeah, the genres here are mostly just martial arts, and I guess there's an element of high school slice of life, but it is mostly about the martial arts. So yeah, and in terms of adaptation, as far as I know, there isn't one for this series, but I could be wrong, so I don't know. And yeah, let's look at the edition before we get into the premise and everything else. So here it is. It's very heavy. It actually has a very, very high quality paper, very bright white, very nicely done. I don't know if this is going to last, if it's going to get ugly and kind of a yellow over time. I doubt it. This doesn't seem to be cheap paper, but you never know. So let's see if there's any information of this being acid-free paper. Let's see. This doesn't seem like it. There's nothing that says, hey, this is acid-free paper. Not that it really matters all that much, but you know, that kind of helps paper not turn yellow over time. So yeah. Anyway, here it is. It's a soft cover. It's a regular paper cover, and it does have color pages, a few of them, as you guys can see. But these are not like those satinated kind of like comic book pages. They're rather just nicely printed pages in color. So it's kind of slightly different from what you usually think of when you think of color pages in manga. And then there you go. Very kind of neat printing, very kind of clear definition between all of the different shades of gray, which I think is really, really good. I like that quite a bit. Honestly, there really aren't any major complaints, except for the transition between volume 1 and 2. Let me see if I can get to it. I don't know exactly where it is. So here, this is exactly how volume 1 ends. It just says continue in volume 2, and then volume 2 immediately starts to the next page. Now, it's not horrible. It kind of makes the book a more continuous read, but you can't have this thing that says continue in volume 2 and then not have an actual break, right? So I really wish that they would have added the cover for volume 2 right here, and maybe some new color pages for this next volume, because that would have been pretty nice. And because we actually do have the cover for volume 2 already in this book. There you go. It's at the very end. This is the cover for volume 2, so they could have really easily just slotted it in the middle and had it be in color. So this is the only real complaint that I have for this book. Other than that, it's good. It has some minimal issues with some kind of text not being centered on the bubble a few times, like once or twice, but generally it doesn't bother anything, and there's no gutter loss at all. So yeah, it's a very easy to open book, and it doesn't really seem to have any what's it called, cracking on it just yet. So that's good. And yeah, the edition is pretty good, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now let's look at the premise here. It's basically about this young high schooler who's kind of being bullied. He's kind of a loser, and he gets kind of stuck on this idea of wanting to train to become stronger when he sees this substitute teacher, beat up these guys that are kind of trying to steal stuff from him, and now he's kind of trying to get him to train him, and it's not really working, but eventually it seems like it's gonna get to that point, and there seems to be a lot more to this teacher character than meets the eye. He seems to be embroiled in this kind of underground martial arts society / cult, so it's pretty interesting. It sounds very cool, and overall I think it's pretty interesting. I like the book a lot. I thought it was really good. It kind of felt slow early on, but it is because it's building up these characters in order for you to kind of care, because volume 2 feels like it ramps up quite a bit more. So yeah, let's talk about the plot line now. I think it's pretty interesting, pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of Dragon Ball or Street Fighter or something like that. I don't know, it has that kind of like very almost mystical level of martial arts, but it is still also kind of a delinquent type of manga, kind of something I don't know, similar to like Tokyo Revengers maybe, but like not the same way. I don't know. It's hard to kind of pinpoint what's similar to it, but it is kind of cool. You like martial arts type series, you'll probably enjoy this one. So yeah, it's a cool mix of slice of life, kind of school situations, and very kind of crazy martial arts action. There seems to be this kind of underground political situation happening between all of these martial artist families, which I think is pretty awesome. And overall, it's pretty fun. It kind of does have this vibe of a Yakuza kind of manga, but of the martial arts kind of world, which is pretty interesting. And it doesn't seem to be super complex yet, but it is kind of ramping up to be something more interesting with this introduction of this kind of like prophecy / like, what's it called? Coming of a powerful martial artist kind of idea that they have going on. So yeah, overall pretty interesting. In terms of characters, we have a few. We have Si Woon, which is the main character. He's the loser kid that wants to become a martial artist. And then we have Chun Woo Han, which is the badass martial artist guy who happens to be the substitute teacher. And he's actually pretty cool. I like his character a lot, but he seems to be kind of like Master Roshi. He's kind of a very lecherous kind of guy, but he seems to be pretty badass when he kind of puts his mind to it. And I actually like that aspect of his characterization a lot. The kind of lecherousness is maybe not the best, but it's not like horrible. It's not any different from any other kind of like martial artist series that has like an older guy being a master, right? Roshi, Jiraiya, all of these guys are kind of the same. So not that big of a deal. Then we have Si Ho Lee, who is this crazy woman. She's also a martial artist, and she's posing as the school nurse, and she has this kind of like relationship with Chun Woo that we don't really understand, but she seems to be kind of like an assassin that is kind of watching over him for a while. So it's kind of interesting. And then we have this guy called Ji-hoo Song, it's kind of hard to pronounce these names sometimes, who is the first major antagonist, and he's not an antagonist for the main character, but rather for the teacher guy, Chun Woo. So he's pretty interesting, and kind of is what develops the major kind of development of the plot for us in the second volume. So overall, pretty interesting in terms of characters. They're kind of quite different from the usual characters that you find in Japanese manga, and I'm okay with that. I don't think the differences are so big that it's kind of hard to read or kind of something you need to get used to. It just kind of reminds you more of like a very kind of ecchi action series more than it does like a regular shonen series, so be aware of that. In terms of world building, it's pretty awesome. There's a lot of crazy martial arts type families, and there's these kind of interesting key powers that seem to be like chakra and stuff like that. And there's also this sort of kind of prophecy looming over these martial artists, and that's why they're kind of so hell bent on doing what they're trying to do. So overall, pretty solid. I like it quite a bit. So in terms of the artwork here, it's pretty solid. I think that the artist here could do a little bit more work on the facial expression sometimes, but it is kind of reminiscent of Boichi. It has this kind of like interesting, kind of more realistic looking style, more similar to Western comics than it is to manga, but also has these moments where it just kind of breaks into this like almost gag manga type of situation, very similar to how Boichi does in you know, Sunken Rock and Origin and Dr. Stone, which is slightly different from the way the Japanese kind of visual gags kind of work, right? So there you go. And yeah, overall, generally very, very interesting stuff. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, this guy kind of has a good understanding of the female form as well. So yeah, in terms of fan service, there's some, and it's pretty good. So, you know, be aware of that. If you don't like it, or if you don't like this kind of like, you know, sexualization of characters, you might not want to read this. But of course, it's not just for the female characters. The male characters are also super well built and kind of half naked a lot of the time as well. So it's not purely on the female side of things, but of course, this seems to be aimed at guys, and so it's going to have more of that, right? So be aware if you don't really like this. This is mostly Siho's role. Siho Lee is the crazy woman that kind of seems to be an assassin. She is mostly there as the fan service character after she's initially introduced to kind of do some exposition, you know, lore dumping there. So yeah, in terms of our rating here, I think this is a 4 out of 5. It's super cool, super interesting. I really like the way the fights are posed and the way the lore of it is kind of developing. So I'm actually pretty interested in seeing what happens next. The next volume is supposed to come out sometime in January, and I'll definitely end up picking it up because I do really seem to be enjoying this, and so I want to continue to read it. I also want to, you know, support Ablaze Manga and kind of help them, what's called monetarily, so that they can continue to do this and bring us some more stuff that other companies might not be willing to do. So yeah, I definitely recommend this title. If you like martial arts and super like action heavy kind of manga, you should definitely check this out. I think you'll like it. And in terms of similar titles, I'm not really sure. Like I said, it's kind of tough to find something that's similar that isn't kind of like very wacky in one direction or another. Like Dragon Ball is similar in the terms of like how ki works, as far as I can tell, but it isn't really similar in the plot line, because the plot line here is a lot more kind of down to earth. Maybe something like Baki or Kengan Ashura, but I don't really know too much about those series, so I can't really say that they're all that similar. But I mean, those are more kind of like fighting based and purely about the martial arts, and I think that this is more similar to that than it is to something like Dragon Ball, right? So yeah, other than that, I don't know, I can't really think of anything too similar, because this isn't really a genre that I tend to read too much of, because I prefer the fantasy kind of martial arts that kind of happen in Dragon Ball and, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, but other than that, that's all I have to say. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you guys think of The Breaker, and if you've read it, or if you're interested in getting around to reading it. This seems to only be about 10 volumes, and then there's a sequel series, so we should be getting this, you know, finished pretty soon with 5 omnibuses. So hopefully we get around to that sequel series, which seems to be what most people like, pretty soon here. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you guys very much, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you guys later.